The time has come.
Oh boy.
You've been waiting for it. It is
Yeah.
your tier list, 100% what you ranked on the melees for Mythic Plus. Let's see the results, man, because you know, people have to have their voices heard in this. And we're not looking at logs. We're not looking at data. We're gonna have some thoughts on all these votes because it is interesting and we think of things. We're
gonna say our piece.
Yeah.
And this is the culmination of 10,000 years of YouTube comments, hatred about what we put into what tier, and now it fully blooms into this community tier list that you guys voted for.
Hell yeah. And it's all about Mythic Plus, and Mythic Plus is where it's at. We all know Ruby Life Pools is one of the banes of our existence. I mean, we love the dungeon in some capacity, but it was a pain last week, man, with all of those affixes. Not damn. How do you even kick and stun and focus the Flame Weavers and Flame Dancers and all that? I'll tell you how. With goddamn player profiles that switch the colors of the plates, okay? Listen, God bless the folks who created the player add-on and the player profiles and all the people who made all of those.
We can actually do dungeons.
We can actually, because listen, you're in Ruby Life Pulse, you have like all of those packs over there, and you know you have to focus the Flame Weavers for the Cinder Bolts and the Flame Dancers for the little dance and stuff, right? It's pretty, you cannot tap target on anything. It's easier to click, right? So player profiles are just the thing. I use Quasi. What do you use?
I use Dorky's player profile.
Okay, famous and infamous people who play Mythic Plus have a lot of decent profiles. So if you want to have it in like a more easier way to do all of your dungeons, especially Ruby Life Pools, just click the link in the description. You download the CurseForge app, install Player, and then look for all of those beautiful profiles, all right? Thank you, CurseForge, for sponsoring the video, as always.
Appreciate it.
It helps us tremendously, guys. It supports us. So just click the link over there, download your CurseForge client, and, you know, scroll to the multitude of add-ons. Now let's start it. Let's see what the people have said. The voice of the community, Arms Warrior. Let's look at Arms Warrior, baby. So we had a total of 555 responses here.
Okay.
Which is more than we were expected.
Yeah.
And on the majority here, we have Arms Warrior being voted as an A-tier spec with 47% of the votes going in it. I was like shocked to see there were actually a couple of votes for F-tier, like 4%, 22 votes for F-tier.
Those have to be the people that did a dungeon with the first time Arms Warrior and he didn't know that Bladestorm did damage. So that's probably what happened there. But it's fun to see that Arms is an 18, and I think that's very similar to what we ranked it a few weeks ago, probably.
I think so. So most of these are pretty similar to what the data says, or I think the community perception as a whole is kind of like reflected from the actual data as well. So a correct A-tier for Arms Warrior voted by the good people. What about Assassination Rogue? Let's check out Assassination Rogue. Yeah, you're gonna see it, right, man?
It's B-tier. I thought it was S-tier.
No, but it's very close. So we have like C and B. No, A and C tier.
Pretty equal, yes. A and C seem to be fairly close.
Yeah, like this, and it's interesting to see because I know people who play Assassination like as a main. They have fun with it. Like if they enjoyed the spec, they have fun with it, and it can do really good in dungeons. Not as good as other S-tier specs, but still can do it. Now, on the other spectrum, you have the people that hate it, and we had a podcast about this with Whisper. The spec really needs some love. Those are probably they're gonna vote the majority into like a C tier. Obviously, we have much more votes for F than Arms Warrior, but
would make some sense. Yeah. But it's interesting that it's B tier, so it kind of feels like it's middle of the pack, which is not something that we particularly disagree with because we do believe that Assassination can still do the numbers. And, you know, judging by a lot of you guys that play it and that needed to point out that, hey, I'm doing a lot of damage with my Assassination. Well, of course you are. That's not the problem. But it's good to know that it's still doing keys and people that are playing it still see it in a reasonable state.
Yeah, the voice of the people. So a majority, 36% here of B tier. We're going to put Assassination into B tier. All right, moving along, we have the Outlaw Rogue. Let me just scroll it down here, and by no surprise, this is gonna be an interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see, like with the other Rogue spec that is gonna be later on the video. So let's see. We have Very tight vote here between S and A tier. Okay, so the majority of folks...
That makes a little bit of sense, right?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of in the same ballpark. Like, okay, it's definitely one of the best. Is it the best? Is it second best? It's kind of like there, as opposed to Assassination where it's like it's either good or bad. It kind of feels where Outlaw is right now, kind of losing a little bit of light to sub for a few weeks now.
Yeah. This is the thing. If you would have done this like I don't know 2 months ago, this would have been a majority of S tier.
Yeah.
But now it's very, very tight. It's still S tier. Interestingly enough, we have F tiers here. 23 votes for F tier for Outlaw.
You have to be trolls, right?
Trolling.
You have to be trolls. So we know the number of trolls, and it's 23.
Yeah, that's it. But okay, community, the voice of the people here. Okay, we have to put it here. It's S tier. Okay, nothing of our input here. With
nobody mains Outlaw here, anyways.
All right, next on the list, Survival Hunter, baby.
Look at all that green.
Yeah. So the majority here has voted for a C tier in keys. Which would you agree with this, Mr. Survival Hunter?
Kinda. Yeah, I definitely see it. It does feel like it has a lot of drawbacks compared to other specs, and I think most of them have to do with its tankiness. However much you want to roll around the tankiness of sure, you have tools, but it definitely doesn't compare, especially if you're doing high tyrannical keys. I personally had a Veximus tyrannical 21 stuff. I just couldn't survive all of the damages. I didn't have enough cooldowns. So it kind of sucks a little bit because you definitely need a dedicated healer or people that can put defensives for you, and that's not something that a lot of specs need. And that's probably what's gonna draw it back more than other specs.
It's a C tier as voted by the good people of the community. However, it was pretty tight between if we okay, we're gonna place it in C tier, but we have a lot of people who placed it in F tier. You're talking about community perception here.
The most F tier. Yeah, that's we did a bunch of survival F tier type videos.
So. I know. But it's like B tier is much more relevant here as well. Like if we're gonna have the fights between these two, there's 32 folks who actually voted S tier. So
in my honest opinion, by playing with Assassination Rogues and by playing my survival and seeing other survivals, I think survival is slightly better than Assassination if we're going to put it into perspective. But it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what the people think, and it's
okay. It's C tier. C tier. This is the people have spoken. Now
that's B tier though.
Sorry, was C tier. Oh my god. Oh wow.
Did you notice? I wasn't gonna say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about Enhancement Shaman. And this is baby. This you can already see from the colors here. People are actually enjoying their Enhancement Shaman.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, this is
though.
good. Yeah, we've ranked this on as an S tier as well. This is all when we ranked it was based purely on data, so high keys, high damage. We all know what enhancement can do. But damn, I think this is the biggest so far.
Exactly 50%.
It's like 272. Like I don't know math. I know how to draw. Okay,
that's exactly 50%. This is the most overwhelming.
It's so far. It's like this. Not even close. Even the folks that voted for 32% on A tier. I mean, you can put it in A tier, it's fine. But Jesus, this is and again, we have to stop on every spec. There has to be trolls here. How can people like 16 trolls over here believe this
F
is
tier
F
enhancement
tier or even C tier? Nah, man. I mean, come on, enhancement. You look at like all of the logs on whatever key, regardless of level. If you're gonna have an enhancement there, it's gonna be pumping hard, man.
Has to.
It's S tier. The people have spoken. Let's put it here with Outlaw. Beautiful thing. Next on the list, the Feral Druid. All right, I was waiting for this one. So to be honest, after the MDI, I was kind of expecting to see a lot of votes for S tier on this.
That would have made sense, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I think like people, like the majority of the people watching our content are quite reasonable, and I think they do look at logs and they do their due diligence.
Feral is definitely good, kind of in the rounds 20 plus, 22s, 23s. Obviously, what you see in MDI, most likely because of its damage profile. Now it's cooldown rotate, but likely the higher you go into keys, probably Feral will drop off. This is kind of how we feel about it, and it feels like it kind of rings true with the community as well. And that's why we see the majority being A tier.
Due diligence. That was what
it took a while. It took a while.
What I was trying to say. Yeah, majority voted for A tier. Actually, there is a quite like almost 30% voted for S tier, and it's pretty fair. I'm not gonna go into the F and C tier. Come on. I would say like 99 people for B tier. I can see why. I can still some like lingering of community perception, but overall very well deserved. A tier. Gonna place it here with Arms Warrior.
Damn.
All right, next on the list, Frost Death Knight, and let's see if we can look at these Breath of Sindragosa syndrome here. So the big majority voted for B tier here on Frost Death Knight.
That feels fair.
It is fair, although there's a huge chunk as well who voted for C tier. From C tier onwards, I still believe people are like caught up with the Breath of Sindragosa. They haven't seen Biceps Pump playing the Obliterate and just breaking the meters and having fun with it. But B tier, in terms of like performance, I think it's fair. Even if you look at the logs and stuff, it's not really like overpassing specs like Enhancement or Arms or Outlaw or whatever. It can do well, it can do 20s, it can do 21s and, you know, wreck the meters and stuff. But I think it still needs some, I've seen some comments on our...
We're gonna have some buffs for Frost DK, so likely after the buffs, we might see some different performance out of Frost DK, but as it stands right now, it's probably a notch below Arms, and I think we have Arms in A tier, and if that's the case, then it would definitely make sense for it to be...
Yeah. We cannot argue with what the people say, so we're gonna put it into B tier. I mean, with Assassination, I guess it's pretty fair. It's fine.
The underdogs.
Okay, how about Fury Warrior? This is a bigger majority here as voting-wise. This is like 51.3% voted for A tier. I was expecting this to be voted as S tier as well. So there you go. People have, but it's like look, like you cannot even have it close. Like S tier 20%, B tier. Come on, man. Fury B tier. There's no way. Have you seen?
People still vote F tier, man. What?
Yeah, well, it's still like we can like even have 14 votes for F tier. These are obviously trolls. It's fine. But Fury Warrior, smooth spec, kind of easy to like maneuver and get the stuff done.
Likely the AoE cap is probably what's gonna keep it from SEO. Maybe this is what people are seeing in higher keys, because it's in lower keys. We're probably not gonna pull too many mobs at once where the AoE cap might be relevant.
Yeah, but we shall place it as the people have voted, so it's going to be A tier, no problemo. Now, you talked about S tier voting majority, baby.
Wow,
Let's get to Havoc.
It's a lot of blue, man. It's a lot of blue.
Havoc Demon Hunter, and this is like reflecting as well the meta and, you know, MDI stuff and logs and everything. Look at this, man. Like S tier voted by 63.2%, man. This is like the most crushing majority out of everything so far.
So what you're saying is that Havoc is S tier, right?
I mean, it's no surprise. We talked about Havoc in multiple of our M+ tier list, like from week to week and changes to changes, patches to patches. It kind of like retained its solid position, and we kind of like all the time when we talked about Havoc, we struggled to find like major weaknesses for the spec. It's just so good.
Doesn't really have it. No, I think it deserves its place, definitely. And people who have been playing it and people who have been playing with other people playing Havoc realize the advantages of having a Havoc in your team. We can obviously talk about the obvious stuff, like, you know, the debuff or the magic damage, but also the toolkit has received a significant upgrade in Dragonflight, and I think it deserves its place as, you know, the most voted S tier so far.
I'm gonna put it in front over here because it's like based on the number of votes, it cannot really go long. It's in front of the pack right now. Havoc Demon Hunter. Next on the list, Red Paladin. I was curious about this one because I know a lot of people get butthurt when we talk about Red Paladin, although we love the spec to death.
Oh, for sure.
So, the community believes that Red Paladins are B tier, and if I'm not mistaken, we ranked Paladin a couple times B tier, and we got so many hate comments. Unbelievable. Although we made the arguments, we've shown the data, and now the people...
the tables have turned.
Yeah, and now the people have voted for B tier as well. Now, Red Paladins can do a lot of damage. Okay, this is by no discussion, and most of the people voted it for B tier. I think B tier is the respect tier. Okay, so it's respectable. You're not gonna have a bad time with a Red Paladin in your group. On contrary, all right, it cannot deliver the same performance as a Subtlety Rogue in AoE. Why? Because Paladin still needs a little bit of ramp up. All right, we made that argument in the past about the Crusade stacks and all of that. You still want that on-demand damage.
I think what Reds might encounter as issues, as what's probably keeping them from being a little bit better, because I've seen you play on Red with shit gear. I think it's similar to Survival Hunter. I think the survivability as it stands now, prior to rework, is gonna be an issue when you have like think about Croth, where you want to have a defensive for every second screech.
I have a shield.
Yeah, you have a shield, you have a bubble, and then good luck for the rest of 80% of the fight. So that's kind of how it is.
I've kind of like felt this. It's still a matter of like when you do pop your burst and your little combo, it still can be some troublesome for a couple of attacks to maintain aggro. And if you get aggro on you as a red pally, see ya. So it's B tier. I think it's fine. We've seen some votes for C tier as well. 95 people. And also for A tier.
S tier, though.
We have some S tier votes here, 53. Yeah, interesting, although
this must be people who really love Paladin.
I mean, I love it, and I have to be real. As much as I love the spec, it's been my main for like all my life, I could not rank it as an S tier because it just doesn't belong there. Yeah, okay, now let's just rank it here. So it's gonna be a very respectable B tier, and we move to Subtlety Rogue. Once again, a big majority of votes. This is kind of reflecting on what's happening currently with the rogues and what's happening in the meta. So we have a 53.8% people voting for Sub-Rogue as an S tier, like 289. Again, cannot help but look at the F and C tier here. Why? Just why?
That has to be people who are salty that Outlaw is not AoE uncapped, like Subtlety.
Could be.
That has to be the Outlaw's man's like, man, I'm gonna play Subtlety now on my
That Alcatar Academy is gonna get burned for sure. But interesting enough, B tier here for 67 votes, which is like
quite a few votes for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting these to be trolls. Would be really curious to see why. If you're over there and if you voted for B tier for sub, maybe you can leave it in the comments on to why. Would be very interesting. We have A tier for like 22.9%, 123 people. But okay, we all seen the logs, we've seen the MPIs.
We know what's up.
It's a guaranteed S tier. The people have spoken as well. Place it here with the big guns. Moving along to Unholy Dead Knight. Divisive as well, man.
I think MDI has a lot of say into some of this. From what we can see, is definitely majority of A with S really close to it. And although Unholy can definitely pull, MDI is a different story. But then again, we can say the same about Feral, where, you know, Feral is probably way better in MDI, probably because it's about speed, it's about funnel damage, it's about getting the most amount of damage in something that takes the longest to kill, which is usually bosses. And Feral and Unholy are really good at that, which is probably why we see Unholy ranked so highly. And I think, personally, I think that's fair. I was actually surprised that the data that we use for Mythic Plus didn't rank Unholy higher. So that was a little bit weird, but I kind of oddly agree with this.
Yeah. I can also like throw in, it may be also when people vote for this, I'm sure it's not 100% like looking at logs and the MDI and stuff. There's also the factor of enjoyment of the spec. There's also that when people vote for this, and Unholy Dead Knight is a really fun spec to play. And I guess, you know, that will weigh into some of the votes as well. There's still like a good majority of people voting for
Those are the DKs that have a priest in their party.
The PI boys. This is the PI group right here. Also like 96% for B tier, but yeah, I agree as well. We can place Unholy Dead Knight into A tier. This is what the community has spoken. Last but not least, Windwalker Monk. Okay, listen, this was one of the specs that I was expecting to be like clear cut, and it is clear, but like I was expecting a big majority for people to vote it for S tier. I mean, it's still S tier. It's still like, but it's not like when you see like Havoc or Subtlety, like you see that overwhelming majority voting it for S tier.
You do have to admit that there's actually very, very few people that put it into something other than S and A tier, which actually is very fair, because sometimes Windwalkers can be a hit and miss. They do rely a lot on the proc, so maybe you have had an unlucky Windwalker in your run and didn't get that much burst in AoE. I could see that, or maybe you're the one playing that, because I know the struggle of waiting for that, you know, proc for the spinning crank kick to go, or for those touch of death that don't really cleave because bugs and all of that. But I think it's fair. I think it's doing really well in S tier, and it's really interesting to see that there's. I think this is the fewest non-S and A tier votes that we've had for a spec so far.
Yeah. I mean, okay, we can talk about a lot of people voting it for A tier, which is understandable. You still have your trolls over here. Okay, not gonna talk about those.
Trolls.
Which, hey, listen, if you're not a troll and you voted for Windwalker as an F tier, again, would be really cool to see why in the comments. Like nobody's gonna, we're not gonna like flame on you or everything. But it's interesting to know how people like reason. What's like the thought process behind this. 60 people voted for B tier, although I think in all of our tier list, at least in Dragonflight, we voted and ranked Windwalker as an S tier spec, and logs kind of.
I don't think Windwalker has been in B in forever. Might have been like maybe in Nathria in the raid.
In raids, yeah.
So that's the only reason I'm thinking, because Windwalker has been, well, love it or hate it, it's been a consistently very strong spec across the board, whereas specs like Sub had its ups and downs over the years. Windwalker has pretty much been consistent at the top of the meters.
Yeah. Okay. So the list of the community. Listen, the community has spoken. Okay, this is your tier list. This is what you voted. We have nothing to do with this. Not influenced anything. We just had a little bit of chat about what you voted.
Yeah, we should add comments to the comments. Should be the people in the comments. How could you rank survival in C tier? Don't you know it's doing more damage than Havoc?
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's interesting to see, and I think like maybe roughly 90% of this kind of reflects why we have been ranking, but based on data.
Yeah.
For at least for the first season of Dragonflight, so it's really cool to see.
Surprisingly, not that controversial.
Yeah, but it's really cool, right? It's really cool. Not as cool as our Patreons who are keeping on supporting all of our content. Thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts.
Appreciate it.
If you want to join the team that way, check the link in the description. And as always, thank you CurseForge for sponsoring the video. Make sure you download that CurseForge app from the description and install that player and have an easier life in your Mythic Plus runs. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, let us know. Have a great weekend. Bye.
See ya.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.